party people, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. So today I have my first project life layout for 2020, and I think my first project life layout on this channel in a very long time. The last time I was doing project life on YouTube, I think I was still doing weekly, and I mean, I've never really done weekly. I've done 5 weeks and then I fall off, and then I do like 5 weeks 2 years later and I fall off again. So I think monthly is going to be a really good fit for me. And if I need a more in-depth look at my weeks, that's why I have my weekly memory planning pages, which I have room for more photos. So what I did in advance to get ready for this week, I did a few things to get ready for documenting this month. I think I don't want to say the downside. I think one of the trade-offs for doing Project Life monthly versus weekly is it takes a little bit more time to get a weekly spread together than it would take a monthly spread. When I remember doing weekly, I used to be able to put a whole spread together in maybe a half hour, and this whole thing from start to finish, between looking for my photos and finding products and figuring out what I wanted to do with the page, from start to finish, I think it took me almost 2 hours. Yeah, I think I want to say almost 2 hours, but that's because I sorted through all my photos for the month. And when you're doing Project Life weekly, there's only a week's worth of photos to sort through. So it's a lot faster to pick which photos you want to document. And then the other part was just me being me. I was pulling through, like I went through all of my stamp sets, looking at the photos that I chose and the stories that I wanted to tell. I went and I pulled out a variety of stamp sets to use on this page. But the main focus, the main kit that I'm using is the Studio Calico Full Hearts kit. This was the February kit, and I have the Documenter kit. When I decided to do Project Life again for 2020, I decided that I wanted to subscribe again to the Studio Calico kits. I had stopped all of my subscription kits that were geared to more towards Project Life, except Ali Edwards, because I was using it for storytelling. But all my kits that were designed for Project Life style layouts, I went ahead and stopped my subscriptions just because I wasn't doing Project Life. So the only one I chose to restart this year was the Studio Calico subscription. So I resubscribed to the Documenter kit as well as to the stamp kit. So I have a few new stamps, and I'll have new cards. There was no reason, like honestly, I didn't need to resubscribe. I probably could have done this with what I had in my stash, but I just wanted new products, so I decided to resubscribe. So I went through all the cards. You'll notice that there are very few filler cards on my spread, and that's because since I'm only doing Project Life monthly, I wanted to leave as much room for photos and words as possible. So I went through the kit and I pulled out most of the cards that had room for words, because I wanted to do a lot of journaling, and I go ahead and I do all my journaling by hand. I have an electric typewriter, and I just broke it like 2 days ago. So in the attempt to use up these cards and to not do everything in hybrid and then have all these cards collecting dust in my stash, I'm going to be doing my Project Life journaling by hand until I either cough up the money for the We Are Memory Keepers typewriter, or I find one secondhand on Craigslist. The electronic typewriter that I had before, I actually scored secondhand on Craigslist. So I've been looking on Craigslist and looking on eBay for a decent deal on a secondhand typewriter, because typewriters are expensive, you guys. Like, let's just be upfront. The We Are Memory Keepers typewriter is expensive, and secondhand typewriters, like really good ones, are expensive. And I need to make sure that it's something that I'm going to use in the long run before I justify the expense. So I don't mind handwriting my journaling. My handwriting and I do not get along on the best of days, but when I stop and I go slowly, I can actually write pretty neat. So I just went ahead and I filled out all my stories. And you'll notice that the other thing I did to prepare for this layout was I had Post-its everywhere. This was just my way of designing my page in advance. So the way I got ready for this layout, while you guys are watching me fiddle with my pen, I'll tell you what I did to get ready for this layout. I went into Lightroom, And I've talked a little bit about Lightroom on this channel before in one of my weekly memory keeping pages. I will link that video in the description box if you haven't seen that video. It was week 4 of my weekly memory pages videos, and I talked about how I use Lightroom to sort my photos. So I went into Lightroom and I sorted all of my photos I pulled all my January photos and collated them into, like, when you go on Lightroom, you can organize things by date. I know Aperture does something similar, but I have the Photoshop Creative Cloud, which comes with the Lightroom subscription. So I went in and I just sorted all my photos for everything that I took in January of 2020, and then I tried to pull out into stories I wanted to tell. So I didn't want to just include random pictures, which you can totally do if that's your approach to project life, but since I'm doing a monthly spread, I wanted to be really intentional about the stories I wanted to tell. So then I tried to remember, based on the pictures, what happened in January. Well, January I had my pinning ceremony. I graduated nursing school, so obviously there are going to be a few photos from that. Noah started swimming lessons in January, so there were definitely a few photos from that. I had my tooth pulled, which was, I don't know. I don't want to go back there, but that was horrible. And so there's definitely some photos from that. And then I tried to look, so those were like the big stories. Also, one of my very good friends moved back to Houston, so we had goodbye parties for her. So those were the more big, like the larger stories, and then I decided to look at the smaller things. So like I have this really cool, this cute photo of Tori at my feet. She likes to hide under blankets, and so I had this photo of her hiding under a blanket, and then I had a photo of a coffee, a photo of a sunset, and it was really, not sunset, sorry, sunrise. And so those are the photos I decided to print. When it comes to February, we'll see how what my process is for picking pictures. I know Allie, when she does her monthly project life, she sometimes uses a theme to pick her photos. So you could do that. You could do a theme, or you could do the larger stories that you want to tell for the month. So after I picked all my photos, I then used some Post-its to kind of design my page, and that helps me decide how many journaling cards I needed and what kind of cards I needed. And it also helps me pull out my stamp sets in advance so that while I'm working on the page, I'm not stopping to look for supplies, because I find that if I have to stop to look for supplies, I kind of lose momentum on my page while I'm working. So I pulled everything in advance and then started. So now I'm stamping, and I have my stamper's secret weapon, because now that I've found that thing again, it is never going away. It is my favorite thing ever. Honestly, I'm stamping all the time now, so it kind of just sits on my desk so I don't have to go looking for it. And so I'm mixing and matching a few things. I'm using the stamp set from that comes in the kits. That stamp is called State of Mind. It's by Carrie Bradford. Carrie Bradford is a smaller shop, so her stuff sells out really fast, and sometimes she does restocks. But honestly, I love her stamps, and I highly recommend following her on Instagram so that you can see if she's offering anything new, and so you can grab them, because they sell out like instantly, honestly. Every time she puts up something, it just disappears immediately. The State of Mind stamp set was really fun because it had like positive sayings and sayings kind of like just being over it, so it was a good mix. Sometimes stamps are like, everything is awesome, and then the other stamps are like, life is terrible and I hate it. And this stamp set is like a kind of cool in between, which is why I like it a lot. So here I have this picture of Noah and I'm building an embellishment cluster. So I put down some washi tape, I add a chipboard sticker, and then I have the labels from Studio Calico. The colors I had out on my desk are lemon zest and pink lemonade. I have pretty much the entire rainbow of these Studio Calico labels except a red, which I will be fixing at some point, but I have like a full rainbow of these labels, and I like these labels because they're paper. So you can stamp on them, they're not glossy, you don't have to worry about your stamps shifting around like you do on other labels or worry about the dry time. I'm just using archival ink today because I use archival ink to stamp on my photos. Right about here, I had a terrible issue with my camera, and my camera skipped out, so you did not see me stamping on that card that is on top of the photo of Noah and I, but I used an old Studio Calico subscription stamp, so it is not available anymore. But I just stamped some hearts, and the sentiment that I stamped in the middle of that card says, "You, us today, and love," and then it's just, I stamped it in the center of that circle of the photo of Noah and I. Sorry about that. By the time I realized my camera had cut out, it had actually cut out for about 5 minutes. Thankfully, I realized it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten the rest of this video, and I would have gone in the corner somewhere and cried. That's happened to me before, where I thought I was recording an entire process, and then I looked at it and I wasn't recording at all. Okay, so here we're talking about the dentist. And right about here, I felt this happen. I put my stamp down on my photo and I felt it slip. That is the downside to stamping on photos, is it's glossy. So archival ink dries instantly, but it will slip. So I decided to, instead of printing that out again and wasting photo paper, I decided to use one of these labels that come in the kit. So this is the, I think it's called Tough Stuff or Life is Tough stamp set from Feed Your Craft. And so I stamped on my journaling, some days are not okay, some days are tough, and that's okay. I stamped that on my journaling, and then I took that square stamp that looks like a bunch of like expletives. So it has like, it's like when you like, you know, like you read like cursing and people just put a bunch of like random symbols to represent a curse. That's what it is. So I stamped it all along the bottom of one of those labels, and then on another label, I pulled out another one of those label stickers. You guys, I love those label stickers. They are honestly, I need them. I have them in every color, so I probably should just keep using them up. But they're so good, and they're so easy to use. And so on that, I stamped the saying, "This is my happy face," because it's a picture of me at the dentist, and I look so happy to be at the dentist. So it's kind of the perfect stamp for it, because, yeah, no one is excited. I saw, like, Vicky Boutin post about how she loves going to the dentist, and I think she's, like, she must be part alien, because I don't think anyone is ever excited to go to the dentist. And then I just used my pen to write the date of the picture and write the location, which was at the dentist's office. And that's how I covered up that mishap. I say this all the time. Stamping mistakes are not mistakes. They're just opportunities for creativity. So when I smudged that stamp, I could have cried, I could have had a meltdown, I could have turned on the computer and printed out a new photo, but instead I just chose to cover it up and keep going, and it worked out really well. So there's one of my inserts. With me doing Project Life Monthly, there's just going to be a bunch of inserts, because I guess it depends on the month. Like, if there is a month where I don't have a lot going on and I can just do 2 9x12 pages to get all my stories told for the month, then I would totally do that. But January was busy and I wanted to use the insert. The other thing is, there is a insert already in here. If you're new here, first of all, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Tashiana. Welcome to Precisely Tashi. But if you're new here, you will see that there's a page I already had made in this, and I made it using the Ali Edwards January digital kit. That layout is actually on my channel, so if you want to see how I made that page, I will try to remember to link it in the description box, or put a little card in the video so you can see how I did that. So that page, I knew I wanted that in my Project Life album, so I made that insert and then literally just tucked it into the album for later, for when I decided to finish up the month. So since I had those two, they're 6 3/4 by 8 1/4. Since I had those inserts ready, it kind of forced me, I don't want to say forced, that's not a good word, but it was part of the reason why I printed 2 larger photos and did my journaling right on the photo. So there's a mix of longer stories and shorter stories, which is 100% why I like monthly Project Life. I've seen a few people do this, and it was definitely the kick in the pants I needed to do it. But I like the mix of the longer stories and the shorter stories and the bigger photos with the smaller photos. So you'll see the bigger photos I use in a little bit, and I will show you obviously what the spread looks like at the end. Now I'm working on the second side of my page, so I'm just doing a bunch of stamping. That's the photo I was talking to you about, oh no, that's a picture of my laptop. I got a MacBook Pro in January. I journaled about how my husband is invested in my success and how grateful I am for him, because he bought that laptop for me. I was crying about how my old PC was a brick and how I wanted to die every time I had to use it, and he took me to the Best Buy store, and he's the reason that I still have YouTube content up right now, because honestly, my channel would have crashed and burned if I didn't get a new computer, because I was really struggling with my old one. Like, I remember during December Daily, I would stay up every night and cry because my computer was so bad, and the only reason I uploaded every day was because I felt like I would be letting people down if I didn't. So I would stay up and wrestle with my brick of a computer for hours trying to get my December daily videos. Now I can edit and export and upload a video in less than an hour, and it is a breeze thanks to this super machine that this husband bought for me. So that's what I was journaling about. And then this is a stamp set from Feed Your Craft and In a Creative Bubble, and it's all about eating. And I had 2 pictures on top of food. I had a picture of a pretzel and a picture of like a full plate of barbecue from when I hung out with some of my friends. So I stamped directly on the photo for the picture of the pretzel because there was enough space in the bottom. And then with the picture of the barbecue, because there wasn't as much space, I stamped on a label, which is why I like those labels, because I can add simple embellishments to my photos and not have to worry if there's no space. Like, I like that it adds a little bit of white space. And then I go ahead and I add a few of those plastic hearts and some chipboard. I liked to make formulas when I work in Pocket Pages, so if I pick one design element, I tend to repeat it on a few pages. So I did those stapled plastic hearts on another card, so I just went ahead and did it again on this card. I'm repeating the label with chipboard cluster because I did that on some other cards. I find that having 2 things I think helps Project Life spread look put together. The first thing is using a kit, because if everything matches, then that takes all of the guesswork out of it, right? And the other thing is repeating design elements. I find that repeating design elements helps tie a project together really well. So here are the 2 larger spreads, and then the right side you can see the layout I created for Ali Edwards with the January Digital Story by the Month kit. So again, if you haven't seen that process, I will link the video somewhere so you can go back and watch how I put that together. But I just have a picture of me on a rainy day, and I did a little bit of a summary of what January actually looked like. And then I had this big picture of my sister and Noah swimming, and I did some journaling about my sister and what I see looking at her as a new mom. I mean, my sister's always going to be my baby sister. I'm the oldest of 3, but I don't have kids and she does. And so I 100% see how fast you mature when you're responsible for another human. And so I did some journaling about how amazing it is to see her like stepping up and see how much she loves her son and how good she is. Like, my sister is a good mom. And I think we all hope that the people in our lives are going to be good parents, but just watching the way she loves that boy and the way she takes care of that boy is amazing. And the fact that she like lets me, I don't know, I don't take it for granted that my sister and I have a good relationship and that I get to spend time with my nephew. I've seen enough families where that's not the case, so I don't assume that that's a thing, that I get to spend time with my nephew and I get to FaceTime him every day. I appreciate that that's a thing, and I don't take that for granted. So I did some journaling about that, about how glad I am that I get to be a part of their lives, and that I get to watch them grow together. And now I am pretty much assembling my page. So I attached the 2 larger photos that I just created onto the January Stories by the Month insert that I made. So now you see how it looks. It's like a flip out page, so it's going to be on the outside of the page protector, and I use my power punch to punch holes in it so that it lines up with the holes in the page protector. And the only thing left for me to do is work on my title card, which is why there was one last post-it left. I 100% am a messy crafter, so I hope that doesn't drive you mad. There's literally stuff on my desk all the time, and I'm constantly just tossing product around and picking it back up and tossing it around and picking it back up until I get my page done. So like throughout this video, there was literally things falling off my desk the entire time. Thankfully, it wasn't anything I needed, so I could have finished my page, but that would have been annoying if it was something I needed and it was on the floor. But now I'm just building my title, so I put a strip of washi. I loved that rainbow washi. I used it in a few places on this spread. And I use the pink tile alpha that come in the kit just to put to spell out Jan for January. And then I go ahead and I repeat the formula that I have in a few more places. So I add 2 more of those plastic hearts, I add some chipboard, and then I eventually use a roller date stamp to stamp January 1st to the 31st to stamp the day, like the days of the month that we're in, just for some extra texture and to add some stamping to that top card. And that pretty much completes this spread. I had so much fun working on this January layout. Honestly, this is the best Project Life has felt in forever. And every time I picked up Project Life, I have attempted to stick to it, but right around like 5 weeks in, I'm exhausted from it. And I think doing Project Life monthly gives me a break to like rest. And I'm still loving weekly memory keeping. I have a few videos in the pipeline to show you what some of the weeks have looked like as they pass. I've just been so busy with other projects that I just haven't had time to get them up, but I have a few more videos in the pipeline to show you about those. But I love how this spread came out. I love that this 9x12 binder is going to have a mix of different sizes, 6x8, 6x12, 9x12. It's just going to feel like eclectic and put together, which is kind of just like me and just like my scrapbooking. So after I pop this into the pocket, I'll take you through flip through of what the spread looks like. Here I'm just adding, like I said, I'm just adding the date with a roller date stamp. I stamp on and stamp off like 100 times, and I still manage to ruin stamping January 31st. This is pretty much what happens to me every time I use this rolling date stamp, so it doesn't surprise me that this happened. Even though I checked my stamp a few times, but I just take my pen and I see that. Did you see that? That was me freaking out. But I just take my pen and fill in the gaps in where the stamping kind of skipped a little bit. Just because I don't really care if it's perfect, but the fact that it was just skipping in like 2 places was driving me mad. So I just use my pen. Also, I love really fine tip pens, so I use the Pilot G2, the .38, which is like the finest pen you can get. It is my favorite pen for journaling, and I'm a huge fan of gel pens. So just a little tidbit about the pen that I was using. And that is that. So that's what it looks like in the book. So here we go. You have the big spread with the 2 6x8. You have that little flip out action. I forgot to show you, but the card on the left is a pullout. And then you have the pictures of Noah and then the other side of my spread. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, keep it crafty and have the best day. Bye!